Good evening, ladies and gents, this is the Nerds the Human, and welcome to this time-lapse edition of Medieval 2 Total War. And in case you're wondering what exactly was going on with the map, I've basically got the same setup as my Timurids campaign, except the Timurids have been left as an emergent faction. So basically all the rebel settlements were handed over to make sure we could get straight on with the action. Of course, I did set everyone to be at war at the very start of the game, so everyone is pretty much ready to murder each other, which I thought was an interesting little setup here. So we'll skip to the end and we'll have a little look around the map. I think the main thing that struck me on this campaign was the fact that the Papal States became a demonic powerhouse and just stormed through the Timurids, what was remaining of Russia, if anything was left at that point, and eventually just destroyed all of the Danish Empire. The Pope certainly did a pretty darn impressive job, although never got Riga, which was obviously one of the classic places for him to launch a crusade against. If you get to diplomacy though, people aren't all at war anymore. Some people have managed to get allies from all of the chaos, which is, I suppose, interesting. Holy Roman Empire and the Venetians. Yes, Venice had an interesting campaign. Took over all of Greece, then took over all of Turkey, only to get held off by the Mongols for quite a long time. But in the end, they did mostly push the Mongols back. They do still exist, but only just. One to Venice, who also managed to hold off the Portuguese invasion in the south. This does tend to happen on these time lapses. I do notice big bunches of armies. Sometimes the AI kind of loses what it's supposed to be doing. On that note, the Portuguese were also a particularly impressive empire. A bit later in the game, they did take over much of France, started to push into Germany until the Holy Roman Empire kind of kicked back. And I suspect, judging from the last few turns of the time lapse, that this was going to continue. Although Scotland did quite well. Something you might not have noticed, that Scotland did eventually take out England. Basically nothing happened on this island at all for basically the whole game. But eventually England just died out. Their founding members just died, so the Scottish took over, and they did go and take over Belgium as well. They've actually got Paris. Interesting. And yeah, I noticed they got a couple little armies along the coast here in the Bay of Biscay, but no, I don't think the Scottish necessarily are going to do too well against those two big powerhouses. And one of the other bizarre ones I did notice was Hungary, who at some point, well, at one point they had to lose, which is a bit strange, but they've also kind of migrated around the map with Stockholm, Riga, and Smolensk. Interesting. Byzantines, they did die eventually. They were on this island for a long time, but they did eventually die. Presumably recently, judging by the current siege by the Venetians. The Sicilians sadly do still exist, which is always very deeply sad for me. No one ever has turned up on Palermo, which is, as I say, disappointing. Even the Portuguese didn't do that job for me. But it's been an interesting one. I think I've covered everyone who's alive. The Danish just about survived, but as I say, if we were to continue for much longer, I'm pretty certain the Papal States will continue to smash through the Danes, who have lost Hamburg to the Scots as well. I hadn't realised they actually lost Denmark as well. So there we are, an interesting little time lapse. We'll probably do a few more of these in the future with some various different parameters being put in place. If you have some ideas for this yourself, do put it in the comment section down below. Interesting, the Venetians really on the march against Portugal now. If we were to continue, Portugal would probably would fall, it looks like. By the way, we're in the year 2080, so this is what the future looks like, just in case you were curious. And obviously I'm the Aztecs with a huge bucket of money, and no one ever turned up here apparently. Oh look, there's a Danish army and a Scottish army. Well, just diplomats. Nothing too interesting, but they did turn up. So in 2080 they have discovered the New World, which is interesting, but we do seem like we're a little bit backwards in this particular world. Oh well, I'll leave it here for now, ladies and gents. Do put comments down below of how well your faction did, and also suggestions for future time lapses, because we might as well have these once in a while. They're quite fun to do. So I will leave you. I'm Thomas. This is Nerds the Human, and this has been, I would say, a victory for the Papal States here on the time lapse of Medieval 2 Total War, the Total War edition. Thank you, and bye bye. Have you heard the good news, my friends? Here's the good news! It's the Pope! Has the Pope ever done as badly as I'm doing as the Pope right now? God only knows. God only knows. Down goes the spoon of destiny. And there he goes! It took every last bolt we had.